Grr, arg.
Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of the Mixtape Podcast, the podcast dedicated to discussing film from a writer's perspective. I'll be your host for this time around. My name is Marcelo Nostroza, joined as always by my partner in crime, Dean Stark. And on this edition of the show, we'll be talking about the 1994 film entitled The Shadow. So, as I do every week, I will pass it over to Dean to take us through this film.
The Shadow was directed by Russell Mulcahy, and it was written by David Koepp, and it's based on The Shadow by Walter B. Gibson. If you don't know what The Shadow is about, it is about this. In 1930s New York City, the Shadow battles his nemesis, who is building an atomic bomb. I had not seen this before. Well, I had watched it before because I knew it was going to be on the list, but I hadn't seen it before that. I had always seen it in the video shop, but I didn't know what it was. I don't know what this is. So it's one of Marcelo's favorites. Is it one of your favorites? It's nostalgic for you.
Yes, The Shadow is to me what The Phantom is for you.
Oh, you put that so nicely. That's perfect. Okay, so the opening scene, we're in Opium Field, Tibet, and a man is basically manhandled into what looks like an opium den, and he's thrown in front of a man that sits on a massive throne, and this is Lamont Cranston, who looks as if he rules over the opium field. He's got people there smoking opium. He looks like he's on the fucking Iron Throne in Game of Thrones. And he basically... this guy's like begging for his life, and then he kills one of his men. Is standing in front of this guy, and he orders his men to kill his guy in the hopes it would kill the other guy standing behind him. And you're just like, whoa, like this guy kills his own friend to kill this guy because he doesn't like him. And he has no empathy. He doesn't give a shit. He'll kill his friends. He just doesn't give a fuck. So that's the opening scene. And what that opening scene did was it introduced Lamont. It introduced the basically rules over these opium fields. He owns them, and he's a dick. That's what it does. I don't know. Look, I don't know if this goes along with the old school radio show. I don't know if this goes along with the comics, because this movie is very campy, but not in a bad way. It's like The Phantom. It's like campy, it's over the top, it's dramatic, because the source material is that way. So I have no idea if it goes along with anything. I don't know if you do, but that's the opening scene. What do you think?
I don't have too much knowledge about the Shadow radio show or the Shadow comics, but I really, really think that this opening scene, written so expertly by one of my favorite, I'm not going to call him one of my favorite, but one of the most steady screenplay writers working in the industry for decades now, David Koepp. What it does, like Dean said, it really establishes the character of Lamont, who at this point in the story is known by Yin Ko as a son of a bitch who would shoot anybody who threatens his opium business. He would shoot even his bookkeeper. Because he basically shoots his bookkeeper to get to this gentleman who was siphoning off his crops for his own opium business.
So the first scene is after that is interesting. So Cranston, in the middle of the night, he gets kidnapped and he gets taken to a monk who tells him he will redeem him and teach him to use his black shadow to fight evil. And there's this whole thing where Lamont, tries to get away and tries to fight him, but the monk has this ability to kind of shift phase in and out of kind of reality. And Lamont
teleports.
Right, he teleports. And Lamont kind of doesn't know what to think. He's kind of never seen that before, and he doesn't want anything to do with this. Like, no, you're not going to redeem me. I am who I am. And the monk keeps basically saying, I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you to use your dark side, but you're going to use it for good. And then there's words on the screen. This is what it says. The price of redemption for Cranston was to take up man's struggle against evil. The taught him to cloud men's minds, to fog their vision through force of concentration, leaving visible the only thing he can never hide, his shadow. Thus armed, Cranston returned to his homeland, that most wretched lair of villainy known as New York City. And we go forward 7 years later. First of all, I don't like my city, New York City, called, a lair of villainy because I love it. So no, it's the best city in the world. I love New York. Okay, there's a few things about that. I don't understand why this monk would take this horrible person. I mean, I kind of do. Take him and go, you know what? I'm going to teach you to be good. Why doesn't he just choose someone that's already good and choose them to do it? The only thing I can think of is he turns him into the shadow, and maybe that person needs that dark side in order to be the shadow, but they need to learn how to control it. And this monk needs him because he has that shadow, but he needs him to control it for good rather than evil. That's the only thing I can think of as to why he would choose randomly Cranston to take on this responsibility of fighting evil.
When I was watching this movie today with the screenplay writer's brain on for the first time, that really struck a chord with me, because I'm with you. Why would this monk pick this drug lord and choose to help this drug lord out of the goodness of the monk's heart? And this is the only reason that I can see why he did that. The monk is going to give Cranston the ability to read men's minds and to go into their heads and to see their true darkest desires. So maybe before he brought him to the temple, he did like a Jedi mind trick on Cranston and really saw the front that he was putting up as Yin Ko was him trying to, in a roundabout way, save his soul by playing the villain of the story.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I didn't think of that, but it makes sense. So the next scene, we're in New York City, and I love the way this movie looks. The aesthetic is very film noir. It's very 1950s, 1930s, 1950s. I just love it. I love the way it looks. I love the cars, just the tone of the movie. I love it because it takes place. It almost takes place like in Gotham City. Like it's a city, but it's like it's not a city that you would ever live in, but it's close enough to be able to connect with. And I really, really, really love that aspect about this movie. So a bunch of gangsters, they pull up in a car on a bridge, and they pull a man from the car. And it's like, you ratted on us, you did this, and they're about to throw him off a bridge. And right before they're about to throw him off a bridge, they hear this like maniacal laugh. And the way that it's filmed, I really love, because they're on a bridge. There's nobody else there. It's night. It's foggy. And this maniacal laugh just like comes out of nowhere. And they're turning around with their guns. They're like, who is this? Who's there? And then the shadow comes out and basically beats them up and rescues the man. Basically, it's a cool scene because you get to see his teleportation skills. But there's a really, really cool shot of the director, and it's from kind of far away, and he pushes in and you see the entire outfit of the shadow, and like the outfit of the shadow is pretty cool. Like it's pretty cool. He's got this like black hat on, he's got this cape, he's got this red kind of mask on. It's really cool. And the way that Alec Baldwin plays him is awesome. So anyway, he rescues the man. Now I love the taxi. There's a taxi driver and he drives a taxi, and this taxi driver drives him around town. Like this is the guy that works for him. It's like it's chauffeur, right? So he gets the guy and he gets into the taxi, and this is what I was like, he tells the guy that he just rescued, you work for me now. You're now one of my agents. And anytime I call on you, you like, basically if I say jump, you say how high. And this guy's like, do I have a choice? And the shadow's like, no, you don't have a choice. And I'm sitting there watching it and I'm like, dude, Shadow, come on, man. You just saved this guy and now you're forcing him to work for you, forcing him to like, anytime I have a problem, I'm going to come to you and you have to do it straight away.
He just did save the guy's life.
Yeah, but now he's saying you have to work for me because I saved your life. it kind of contradicts saving the life. It's like, great, so now I have to work for you and I have no choice. Not giving someone a choice is trapping them. I was like, oh, I don't know. They could have worked that scene a little bit better.
I'll give you that. When we moved to Lamont in New York City, fully as the Shadow again, I really love this opening sequence from a writing aspect because it shows how the Shadow moves. It shows him using his powers, or AKA the voice, and the Shadow has this Batman-esque quality to him. As a matter of fact, I think it's possible, I may be mistaken. I remember reading somewhere that one of the creators of Batman, or one of his influences for the idea of Batman, was the Shadow character.
That's true.
Okay, it's true. Okay, is it? Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. That's what I read.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay,
You're right.
Okay, cool. Okay. So I really love this sort of noir Batman style to the Shadow. The other thing that I love about this, and I'm not on the same wavelength as Dean when it comes to this, but I love the fact that every person that he rescues sort of becomes indebted to him. The individuals that he rescues become his men or women on the street. That is very, very appealing to me. Sure, Dean saw it as forcible. I do agree with her from a writer's perspective. It would have been cool if David Koepp gave the character of the Shadow, or wrote the character of the Shadow, giving the scientist that the Shadow rescued a choice. But the fact that he didn't kind of makes the scene forceful in a way. So I do agree with her on that, despite me liking the scene.
I love the fact that he recruits everyone that he saves to use their skill set. I just, like you, I just don't like the fact that he doesn't give them a choice. Like, the taxi driver works for him, great, but the taxi driver is a normal taxi driver. So every time he has a fare and the Shadow goes, I need you, he's got to drop everything and go to this guy. Like, how can you have a life? How could you ever have a fucking life, or make money for that matter? So, but I'm diving a little bit too fucking deep.
I'm gonna go a little bit off script here, and I will just say that Lamont is a very, very well off individual. So
true. Yeah.
It's not said at all, and David Koepp doesn't say this at all. But I bet you that Lamont financially supports at least his cab driver.
Yeah, or he could just hire a chauffeur on call 24/7 instead of pulling someone out of their job. He could do that.
Hold up. Like an Alfred, perhaps?
Yeah. So the next scene, we're at the Cobalt Club, and Cranston walks in, and this Cobalt Club is really cool. It's 1930s. Everybody's dressed 1930s. I love it.
I love this club.
I love it.
The music, the feel, the vibe.
It's great.
So good.
It's so good. It's fantastic. Like I said, it's like watching a movie where it's it's real, but it's not real. So Cranston walks in, and he sits with his uncle, who is the police commissioner, like Batman. And he says, and the police commissioner's like, this Shadow guy, he's meddling in police business, so I'm going to put a task force on him because I can't have him doing that. And then Cranston sits back, and the lighting's really cool. He sits back into his shadow self, and he basically Jedi mind tricks him. Basically, he tells him, no, you won't. You're not going to do anything of the sort. And then his uncle says, no, I won't. I'm not going to do anything of the sort. And so we see another power he has, which is basically mind control. And then a beautiful woman walks in, and Cranston basically looks at her and he's like, who is she? And she's revealed to be someone called Margot Lane. And her father, we learned that her father is a scientist.
Who is her father, by the way?
Gandalf.
And it's fucking Magneto.
And Magneto. Sorry, it's Gandalf and Magneto. Ian McKellen. So he says, stay away from her because she hears voices, which is a cool setup for her character. Anyway, thoughts?
I love the visual cue that the director uses to show Lamont using his powers, having his eyes only lit up when he sits back is it's such a really cool, it's such a really cool visual. And I like how his Uncle Wainwright, is so fucking, he's a career drunk, and he is a commissioner of police, and he couldn't care less about a lot of things when it comes to his scenes in this movie. Like, they really did him dirty. I thought it would have been really cool if they sort of gave Lamont's uncle this vendetta against the Shadow, and made him like for lack of a better word, Commissioner Gordon trying to hunt down Batman. When I looked at his character from a writer's perspective today, when I was watching this movie, I was like, I could have really done I could have really done cool things with this character.
His character didn't need to be in the movie. If you took him out, he didn't provide anything. And yeah, you're right. They could have made him so much richer. They could have made him pit him against the Shadow, but he's in like 2 scenes.
On that same note, Lamont didn't need an uncle. He could have walked into the Kobold Club and felt Margot's psychic powers.
Yes. Yeah. So, I agree.
So when it comes down to it, Uncle Wainwright didn't need to be there, but since he was there, it would have been cool to see some expansion of his character.
I agree. So Cranston, completely disregarding what his uncle has said, approaches Margot because she's pretty. And he says, do you want to get out of here? Do you want to have something to eat? And she says...
She's stunning, by the way.
Yeah. Penelope Ann Miller. And she says, yes. So they go to dinner to a Chinese restaurant. She's sitting there. She goes, oh my God, thank you so much. I love this dress. And he's like, what? And she's like, didn't you just compliment me? He's like, no, I didn't say anything, but I was thinking it. And then she goes, oh my God, this always happens. And he's like, what happens? And then she basically tells him she has the ability to read people's thoughts. It doesn't always work on everybody, but she can randomly do it, which you can see him freaking out because he's got a secret identity. And every time someone tells you not to think about something, you think about it. So he's like, oh, okay. But it's terrifying. If somebody said they could read your thoughts, it's terrifying because your thoughts are literally the only thing left on this planet that is private. Everything else is not private, but your thoughts are private. So I understand his freak out.
Yeah. Listen. His freak out is definitely warranted. But I really like that David Koepp gave the character of Margot the ability to break away Lamont's walls and see the true him, right? In many ways, Margot Lane is the surrogate for the audience. When she's in scenes, we can experience the film through her, because the Shadow doesn't have a crew. He doesn't have a team. He doesn't have guys with gadgets. Sure, he has a network. But I really feel that as a screenplay writer, it would have been cool if David Koepp wrote a character that the audience could experience the story through to connect what was happening in the story a little bit more. Am I actually going crazy?
He doesn't have anybody working with. He's like Batman. he's solitary, and he doesn't connect with anybody. Like you said, like he has agents, but at least with Batman, like Batman had Alfred, Batman had Robin. So you had normies to connect to. But with the Shadow, you don't have that. I mean, even Margot, she's not a normie. She can read people's thoughts. You can connect with her, but I think he needed someone. They tried to do it with the cab driver, but he wasn't in it enough.
What do you think about the story progression and the way that David Koepp is actually constructing these scenes in reference to story and story flow?
I think it's quick. Because this is scene 4, and we've already set up his character. We've set up that he's the Shadow. We've set up his powers. We've set up Margot. We've set up everything. And I think this is only the first 20 minutes, which is how it's supposed to be. But David Koepp is a good writer, so I'm not shocked. Now we're at the Museum of Natural History, and they have a delivery of a sarcophagus, and it's Tibetan, yet has a Latin inscription. I don't know. I think people that write movies think Latin is really cool and like really like because it's like a dead language, but it doesn't make sense on a Tibetan unless they spoke Latin in those days. I'm not sure, but that didn't really work for me. And it says that Genghis Khan is inside. It's his sarcophagus, and you're like, oh, okay. And then it randomly like opens on its own, and you think it's Genghis Khan inside, but it's not. It's one of his descendants, Shiwan Khan, and he steps out. Now, the other thing that I thought was strange was he knows how to speak English.
Are you ready to have your mind blown?
Oh my God, yes. Please.
I love this movie. I've seen it countless times. I grew up with this movie.
Yeah.
But today is the first time that I watched this movie, and I finally put together, this is not Genghis Khan.
Oh my God. Wait a minute. So you've seen this movie so many times, and you always thought it was Genghis Khan the whole time?
It's not Genghis Khan.
No.
It's not Genghis Khan because here's the thing, guys. To do the show, as screenplay writers, we actually have to listen to the fucking dialogue.
You have to know what's
we
going
have to
on.
pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because I paid attention.
Oh my God. Marcelo, no. Oh my God. I actually wrote down, in my notes, I had Genghis Khan, but halfway through the movie, he's like, I am Shiwan Khan, the last descendant of Genghis. I'm like, fuck, it's not even Genghis Khan. I had to go back and fucking redo it. Oh my God. Wow.
David Koepp, like Dean said there, says it explicitly.
Yeah.
Shiwan Khan is not Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the Look, for me, it doesn't happen in the scene in the museum. For me, it happens later on in a confrontation that we're going to talk about. But that was unbelievable to me, guys.
Yeah.
And I would have never realized that about this movie if I didn't put it on the show here.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was about to rip them a new one because I was like, Genghis Khan was in his 60s when he died. This guy's in his 20s. Like, what are you trying to pull?
What Shiwan Khan says about Yin Ko when he meets Lamont later on, and all his praise for him, which we're going to get to, that scene does not work at all. It does not work. And when we get to the scene, I'll tell you why it doesn't work.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I don't know how he knows how to speak English. That was a fucking oversight. But it does show that one of the guards is there. He tells the guard to put a gun to his head and kill himself. So we know that he also has the ability to control minds. So that was good because that was right off the bat. And it's like, all right, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, no, I really, really love the scene because another fun fact about me when I was a kid. When I was a kid, this scene terrified the shit out of me. When I was a kid, for some reason, I thought this movie was rated R, and every time that Khan would say to the security guard, fall to your knees, put the gun to your temple, and then sacrifice yourself for me. As a kid, it would freak the fuck out of me, and it would make me so like uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a really nice way to show that Shiwan Khan is not fucking around.
Yeah, exactly. So now we go to meet Margot's dad, the scientist, and we learn he's doing like energy research, but he's also working on like a circular device, which we'll learn about that before. Tim Curry is in this movie and is completely wasted character. He tries to do an American accent. Tim Curry, please do never try to do an American accent. It's really not good. You can't do it. I wish he was in the movie more because I love Tim. Tim Curry brings something to every single character he plays, but in this movie he's in like 3 scenes. I'm like, dude, no. He should have been the villain. He's a great villain. But anyway,
you know what?
I guess so.
You know what Tim Curry brings to this movie?
What?
The Tim Curry magic. That's what it brings.
Not enough. It's not enough.
But But to your point, he's not in the movie now.
That's true. So anyway, Margot goes to visit her dad, and she basically tells him she's met a man who she can't get out of her head. The only point to that scene was to show that her dad is working on a device, which we will learn about what that is later, and that Margot is infatuated by Cranston.
I thought it was it was a good introduction for Margot's father, but I thought it was a little plotty.
So Cranston gets an alert that a guard has been murdered at the museum. So he goes to his sanctum, which is like the Batcave, to get more info. And Shiwan Khan is inside. Now, at first I was like, because it's like a secret thing, right? How the fuck did he get inside? And he's got a whole new outfit. And I'm like, well, who's his tailor? Where is he going to get this outfit? But then I thought, wait a minute. If he can mind control people, he can go into a tailor or like a shop and get them to make him something, right? So it's like, okay, I'm going to let that shit slide. And then Shiwan does mention that he found it so easy to get in. I'm like, all right, well, that's okay. So they mentioned it. They mentioned that he got inside because he can not shapeshift. He can teleport as well. So it makes sense that he's inside. How he found the sanctum, I don't know. That wasn't said. So he says that he's a big fan of who he once was and the opium drug lord murderer and all that shit. And
okay, hold up. I just have to say this. How the fuck does he know all this? How? What? Like how? Like,
yeah, he's been in a sarcophagus since the Mongolian days, and I don't know how. I don't know. Because he says, oh, I really like, what was it, American like bourbon. I have a taste for it. I'm like, when did you ever try American alcohol? When? Like yesterday? What is it? And then he's like, oh, Americans are so, he says something derogatory about Americans. I'm like, you've known them for like a day. What are you talking about? It's like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Like how he would know about his Cranston's past. It makes no sense.
Yeah. The only way that it would make sense if he actually went into Cranston's mind and he actually read his he actually saw his memories.
But it wasn't shown, so it didn't happen.
Yeah, again, guys, it goes back to that old adage, show don't tell.
Yeah. So then Shiwan says, in 3 days he will conquer the world, which is such a bad guy thing to say. Why do bad guys always reveal their fucking plans? Keep them to yourselves and then maybe you win. Anyway, so Shiwan wants to recruit him because he wants him to turn bad. He's like, I know you're like the cream of the crop when it comes to like fucking assholes. Because he knows how ruthless that he can be. And then he tosses Cranston a coin and then leaves. He goes, oh, it's for the bourbon. Look, Kep put this in the script because that moves the story forward. But in reality, why the fuck would he do that?
No, well, okay. He put it in the script because it moves the story forward. But all the dialogue that he had Shiwan Khan say makes no sense. And the reason why it makes no sense is because it's nonsensical. How the fuck does Shiwan Khan know all the shit about Cranston? And how the fuck does he admire him so much if, like Dean said, he's been in a fucking coffin for decades?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah, I don't know. I want to know how he knows how to speak English. That's literally the only thing I want to know.
Okay. The speak English thing, I can let go, but from a story aspect, I can't let the scene go because it doesn't. Everything that Shiwan says in this scene is exposition, but it's lazy. It's lazy.
This is why we don't do nostalgic movies. Fucks us up.
Folks, I just want to say something. David Kemp kicks fucking ass. David Kemp is better than this. David Kemp co-wrote fucking Jurassic Park.
He is good.
You're better
not now.
than this. Yes.
But
you're better
But was he trying to make it campy and kiddie? Because if he was trying to make it campy and kiddie, then it's fine.
If he was trying to make a Campion kitty, I'll forgive him. But looking at this film exclusively from a writer's perspective, not knowing his intentions, listen. There are ways that you could have made the scene Campion kitty, but make it work better from a story perspective for the audience. I said it, Dean said it, show don't tell.
Yes.
Before Shiwan came into Cranston's inner sanctum, we could have seen a scene of Shiwan Khan breaking into Cranston's mind, and we could see flashes of all this shit that Shiwan mentions in the inner sanctum. That could have worked perfect.
Yeah. Yep.
It's that simple, folks.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
So Cranston takes the coin that Shiwan gave him to the scientist that he rescued at the bridge, because this dude's a scientist. And this guy kind of analyzes the coin, and he says it's bronzium, and it could, in theory, be used to make an atomic bomb, but it would need a beryllium sphere to actually make it into a bomb, to actually make it work. And nobody's created that yet, so I wouldn't worry about it. So we cut to Margot's dad, who happens to be building a beryllium sphere. Dun, dun, dun. And then Khan somehow fucking finds out. He finds out, I don't know how, it's never shown, we don't know. And then he gets in his head, and now he's mind controlling the scientist. But the thing is, Khan is nowhere near the scientist, so he can do it from like miles and miles away, which I don't know if that was I don't know if that was set up, because every time the shadow does it, he has to be looking at the person. So Shiwan is obviously maybe more powerful. I don't know. Anyway, thoughts?
I think that's what David Koepp was trying to convey, that Shiwan Khan is more powerful than Lamont, because, as you said, Lamont has to be physically looking at the person, and Shiwan can be miles away and compel anyone to do whatever the fuck he wants. So I think that's what David Koepp was trying to convey to the audience.
Okay, that makes sense. So Margot approaches Cranston's uncle, that's the police commissioner, and tells him something is wrong with her father. He's babbling and he's speaking Chinese, and he doesn't speak Chinese. I really love Margot as a character. She reminds me of Lois Lane. She reminds me of Lois Lane. She's funny. She's pushy. There's a scene coming up between her and the Shadow, which I love. I love the writing of that scene. It's just like, yeah, you go, girl. You tell him what you want. Like, I love it. Anyway, so Cranston runs off because he's like, oh fuck. So he runs off into the fucking night. Margot catches up with him, and he tries to Jedi mind trick her. He tries to get into her mind. And it's funny because it doesn't work. She's like, what are you trying to do? He's like, yeah, you won't remember this. And he's like, are you on drugs? Like, and he's like, his face is just like, fuck, it doesn't work on her. Oh my God. So he fucking runs off. At this point, like, he has no clue why it works on everybody else but Margot. So he rushes to Margot's dad, the scientist, and Margot's dad is basically surrounded by Shiwan's like minions, who are, most of them look Mongolian, and they're dressed like ancient Mongolians. I don't know where he found all these like Mongolians walking around New York. I don't know where he got the tailor to dress them all in the garb. I don't know. But it happened. He kicks the bad guys' asses, which is a cool scene because he teleports in and out. Like, the fight scenes are pretty cool. But ultimately, Khan gets the dad because, you know, the Shadow is distracted by the bad guys. So Margot's dad calls her and tells her to come to the lab. I have something to tell you. Literally like that. So you know he's fucking mind control. And she goes. And this is the bit. And she is mind controlled by Khan. But how? Because Cranston can't do it because of her ability. That's why he can't do it, because she can read people's minds. So he can't. So how can Khan control her? He gives her a gun and a mission. So I don't know. Is it just saying Khan? Is it another thing that it's like Khan's way more powerful than the Shadow? Is that what it's trying to say? Because like I was like, how can he do it?
Khan is way more powerful than the Shadow. That's the only reason. That's the only way that I can rationalize it.
Yeah. So Margot shows up at Cranston's place, totally like she's walking like a zombie because she's controlled. And she tries to kill him, but she... What is it? What have I written? Fucking hell. She has no idea she has no idea why she's there because she's fucking mind controlled. And she says that she just has a voice in her head keeps telling her to kill the Shadow. And then realizes, oh shit, you're the Shadow. And Cranston's like, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? And she's like, no, you're the Shadow. It's funny. Anyway, thoughts on that scene?
It's a really, really good scene. And you know what I like about it? I like the way that David, as far as escalation in the scene, I really love it because Margot comes in, tries to shoot Lamont, and then Lamont wakes her up by saying, Margot Lane. And then Margot is so out of it. But everything that is said by Lamont really pushes the scene forward to that moment when Margot grabs Lamont, twists him around, and Lamont says, you want to know who I really am? It's a great little scene, and it does a great job with escalation. Every line in that scene pushes the point forward, or the moment that Margot says, I know who you are. You're the Shadow.
I love the fact that every time he turns into the Shadow, his pupils go completely black. And it's to show that that's his shadow coming out. Because when he becomes the Shadow, that's when his dark side comes out. He's just able to control it.
Wait a minute. His pupils? They go...
His pupils go completely black when he turns into the Shadow because his shadow side is coming out. Watch it again. You'll notice it. You'll notice his eyes go completely black. So Cranston meets with Khan. Khan still wants him to turn to the dark side, blah, blah, blah. You know, you're better than this. You know, you used to be so cool. Now you're not anymore. You're just saving people. It's not cool. Join me, you know, all that stuff. What we do learn is Cranston can control Khan's minions, but Khan is too powerful for him. He can't control Khan. Khan gets away by jumping out of a window, and Cranston gets in his cab and he's like, follow him. And then he loses him. And he's like, how did I lose him? Like, he was right behind him and now the car's fucking not there. It's gone. And he gets his cab driver to stop. And it's at a vacant lot. And he walks up to it and he's looking at it really confused. And his cab driver goes, it's just a vacant lot. What is it? And Cranston goes, I don't know. There's something. Like, we can't, it looks like a vacant lot. Can't see anything. He's like, there's something with this, but I can't put my finger on it. Which is, it is cool what it turns out to be. And it does make sense why he can sense it. But yeah, so that's that scene.
This scene is a great callback to the first scene of the movie, or one of the first scenes of the movie, when Lamont goes to meet the monk that trains him to be the Shadow. Because when Lamont goes to see the monk for the first time, one of the henchmen for the one of the monk's followers says to Lamont, when he says, you're taking me to meet a holy man, and the camera rolls around to see a small hut, and the follower of the monk says, the weak mind sees nothing. So I really love how this scene, how that scene early on in the film sort of infers the scenes having to do with this vacant lot.
Yeah. So Cranston heads back to his apartment and Margot is asleep. And she wakes up and they kind of have this like funny back and forth banter. And then the next morning, it's even funnier because they play off of each other really well. Like, the casting is really, really, the casting is really cool. And he's like, okay, I got to go to a meeting. She's like, great, I'll come. And he's like, no, you're not coming. And she's like, yes, I am. I'm totally coming. And she's like, do you have anything to wear? And he's like, well, this was my aunt's. She's like, great, just wait a minute, I'll get changed. And he's like, you're not listening, you're not coming. And she's like, great, so like, we going now or what? He's like, you're not coming. She just railroads the shit out of him until eventually he's just like, okay, you can come. It's just a funny scene. I love Margot. I love her in this movie. I wish there was more of her character, because just the way that, like, he's so powerful, and she just fucking comes in and goes, "You're not doing that. You're going to do this." And he's like, "Okay." I love it. I love it. It's so funny.
You know what Margot is? Margot is the yin to the shadow's yang.
Yes. Yes, I would agree about that.
Yeah, they just work so well together, and like you said, I really think it's spot on casting by the casting director for this movie.
Yes. So Cranston tells Margot, Khan needs a beryllium sphere to make it work, and like there's not one. And Margot goes, "Oh, my dad's working." My dad's assistant was working on a beryllium sphere. Oh, fucking, that's a coincidence. So Cranston decides to meet him, which is the Tim Curry character. And he asks Margot to find out what used to be in the vacant lot that he was looking at before, because he knows something used to be there, but he needs her to find out what it is. And so she says yes, and then he goes to meet Tim Curry's character.
Yeah, I mean, look. It's it's really cool when Margot, like Dean said before, starts railroading Lamont's character. But I really like this film when it's sort of a Lamont and Margot team up movie, and Margot fully knows who Lamont is as the Shadow. In many ways, Margot is like Barbara Gordon to Lamont's Batman.
Cranston goes to visit the assistant, who, this is so bizarre, who has stepped into a laboratory. And the only reason I'm calling it a laboratory is because I was reading the script as I was watching the movie. That's what David Koepp has written, that it's a laboratory, but it's not, because when it looks like a giant fucking propane tank right in the middle of New York. I don't know why it's there. I don't know who built it. There's nothing in it. The only thing that's in it are these giant what is it, the giant portholes that when Tim Curry like moves a lever thing, the whole thing starts to fill up with water. I don't know what the point is. Like, it's a cool scene, but I don't know what the point is. So as the shadow, he's asking like where the sphere is, and the assistant basically turns on the giant water valves, and he shoots the shadow and then exits, locking him in, and the room fills up with water quite quickly, actually. It's like within 2 seconds, he's already fucking underwater. Cranston telepathically reaches out to Margot, which is funny because she's in the library doing research, and he goes, Margot, and she like almost falls off her chair, which is, I laughed out loud. It was quite funny. Asking for help, she rushes to him, and basically just in the nick of time, she opens the door because he's about to drown. It's a cool scene, but it makes no fucking sense.
No, it does not, because like Dean said, where Tim Curry's character is supposed to be is a laboratory, and that is a water tank.
Yeah. Why is he even there?
The only reason why it would be a water tank, David Koepp could have said that whatever Tim Curry was working on had to be cooled in excessive amounts of water. And that's why the water tank is there.
Yes, that would have worked.
That would have worked.
But that's not what we got. That's not what we got.
With the absence of that, the scene's really cool, but it doesn't work.
Yes, it's cool. Like, it's a cool like action scene, but from a screenwriter's perspective, it doesn't work for me. So Cranston is asleep, and when Margot enters his mind, and she basically sees what he's dreaming, and he's dreaming who he used to be and all the terrible things, all the people he killed, the massacres, the wars, like everything that he did. And he wakes up and he's like, "You saw that?" And she's like, "Yes." But she it's really sweet. She tells him, that's all in the past. That's not who you are now. But he just says, "I can't forgive myself for what I've done." Which is good, because it shows that it hasn't really been brought up that he feels bad about who he used to be. It's kind of been glossed over. This is the first time, and I think the only time, where he actually recognizes, oh no, I've done all this shit. Like, this is not good. So it's good that he had that like as a character, and it's good that Margot basically saw it and went, I know that's not who this guy is now. So I'm going to go with who he is now rather than what he's done, because I know that he's saving people and he's trying to make up for his past mistakes. So I really like that scene.
I really like the scene as well because it really shows that Margot will possibly end up loving loving the person who Lamont is, wounds and all. She loves Lamont for Lamont and not for the darker parts of him. Sure, the darker parts of him connects the two of them together in a very specific way. Not to mention that Margot is telepathic, but it's really, really lovely to have a partner in your life, a girlfriend, a friend, or any individual who accepts you for warts and all.
Yeah.
And believes that regardless of the fact that in the past you may have been a questionable person, they're not judging you on things that you did 10 years ago or 20 years ago. What they're judging you on now is the person that you are now and the things that you do now, and that's it. So it's just great to see Margot be that type of character, and I'm really glad that David put a scene in the film that illustrates that.
So Margot informs Cranston that the vacant lot that he was asking about, there was a hotel that used to be there until it was torn down, but she can't find anyone who seems to remember when the hotel was torn down. Like, everyone's very vague, like nobody can remember. And then Cranston says, or if it was torn down. And it's like, oh, could it still... I like that dialogue, because he's like, oh, okay, well, if everybody... It's like everybody's memory is being affected. So there's got to be something there that nobody can see. So I like that. That was a setup for what's coming up.
I like that progression of the mystery of what was in the vacant lot. And like I said before, I like the way that, to me, that is sort of a payoff of what happened early on in the film when Lamont met his mentor, and what was shown in that scene when Lamont couldn't see the monk's giant temple because his mind was so weak. So I like the way that David Koepp set that up as a writer, and the way that he's sort of fitting that out with the mystery of the hotel.
So Cranston and Margot go to the vacant lot, and then Cranston starts to see that the hotel is there. It's kind of phasing in and out. And he's like, oh my God. And it's this awesome 1950s hotel, from the outside. It looks really fucking cool. But nobody else can see it. He's like, hey man, can you see that? And the guy's like, what? Margot can't see it, but he's the only one that can see it. And he says Khan has managed to hypnotize the entire city to not see the hotel. And now we know it's Khan's headquarters. But how can Cranston suddenly see it now, but he couldn't see it before? What has changed?
He's trained.
When?
Again, it's show, don't tell, right?
But they didn't even tell us that he trained. It was just literally 2 scenes ago, he's like, what? I can't see anything. And now he's like, I can see it. And I'm like, but how can you see it now?
I got nothing, but I will use my trusty... Ready, folks? I say it every episode. Writer's convenience.
Yeah. That's true.
Wait a minute. Did I say writer's convenience in our last episode? I did not.
No, because there wasn't. That's why.
There wasn't. There wasn't.
No, there wasn't. No. So Margot's father turns on the bomb, the beryllium sphere, and it's got a countdown of 2 hours. So the shadow breaks into the hotel, kicks the bad guys' asses, and then faces off with Khan. Meanwhile, Margot finds her dad telling him to stop the device, and the device is a ball. He's put the beryllium sphere in a ball, and then it's rolling down the hallway, down the stairs, and they're both chasing it until it stops. Now, the dad made the beryllium sphere. He made it, right? And then he ends up cutting, she's like, turn it off. He cuts the wrong wire, making the countdown go down to 2 minutes. But he created, why is he cutting the wrong? That makes no I was so angry.
Do you know why?
David,
Do you know why?
No, don't say the color thing because the color thing is the
No,
next
no.
one. This is not the color
Okay,
thing,
all right.
right? And I was like, "Oh
Right.
my God." And if you knew, because this guy's colorblind, if you know you're colorblind, why would you even attempt it? Why wouldn't you just say, "Hey, is this red or blue?" Like, why wouldn't you just ask Margot? So that fucking pissed me the fuck off. So anyway, the countdown is now 2 minutes. I know why he did that because they had to make it like nail biting, and 2 hours is not going to fucking cut it, but 2 minutes will. So the countdown is going, and he says, like, Margot's like, you got to cut the wires. He goes, I don't remember which wire to cut. So it's not even about the colors. He's like, I don't remember which color. You literally made the beryllium spear 5 minutes ago, and now you can't remember how to disarm it. That pissed me off. Like, out of the whole movie, I was like, David, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? You're better than this. And then
You're better than this.
and then he goes, okay, I'll cut the green wire, but he goes to cut the red one because he's colorblind and he's too fucking stupid to ask his daughter who's right there. And then she goes, no, 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 no. So Margot pulls the green wire and she's like, this is green, this is red, you're about to cut the wrong one. And then the timer stops. It's like fucking 2 seconds. And I'm like, Jesus. Meanwhile, Cranston is still fighting Khan and manages to maim him, but like he telepathically like pushes a piece of glass into his head. He would be dead.
Excuse me. He doesn't maim him. He fucking stabs him in the fucking head.
Yeah, but he's still alive. That's why I said maim. Because the dude in the next scene is still alive. But in this scene, see, this doesn't make sense for me. This whole third act does not work for me. This whole scene, the whole movie, Khan has been more powerful than Cranston the whole time. Suddenly, at the end of the movie, Cranston fucking pulls it out of his ass and is suddenly more stronger than Khan. There's no setup to that. Why is he suddenly more
Do you know
powerful?
why?
I don't know why, Marcelo. I don't know. You must tell me.
No. Also, I think the reason why Cranston all of a sudden is more powerful than Khan because he masters the poba, the little floating knife thing.
Yeah, the bitey knife thing. Yeah, it's not enough for me.
Once, I know, but I'm trying to save David's ass
You
here.
can't.
It's gonna be easy. I can't. Like for me, look. You know what? I'm not even gonna try. David could have. I think that David could have done better. Again, Dean has said it. Dean has said it. I have said it, and I'm going to say it one more time. I'm going to say, you're better than this, David. You're better than this.
Yeah, you are. I wonder if this was one of the first screenplays he wrote, though. Because if it is, I give him a pass.
That's a really good question.
I give him a pass.
That's a really good question.
So, next scene, next minute, Khan is in a mental institution in a straitjacket, and the doctor comes in, he tries to control the doctor. You're going to let me out. And the doctor just starts laughing. But he says they had to remove a part of the front of his brain to save him. And don't worry, it's of no use. You don't need it unless you believe in telepathy. And the Khan's like, oh, fuck you. I would assume they removed the pineal gland. They didn't say it, but I would assume that that's what they removed. So Khan is in there screaming. He can't control everyone. He's going to be, he's like, I'm Shiwan Khan. I'm, fucking, it's like at the end of Batman Forever where Jim Carrey's like, I'm Batman. He's like psycho. And they're like, yeah, sure you are. That's that scene. I liked it. I liked the scene. It was fun.
Yeah. It's a nice, fun way to end this really, really, really fun poppy movie. But it's a really cool scene. And if you notice, the doctor is one of the Shadow's agents. He's wearing the ring.
Oh yes, yep. So the final scene of the movie, Margot and Cranston are together and they're kissing on the street. And he steps away, and he says, "I'll see you later." And then she says, "How will you know where I am?" And he turns and he says, "I'll know." And then he turns back, and that's it. That's the end. I like that ending. It's simple. It's cute. I like it. I like the ending.
It's elegant.
Yeah, I like it. It's good. I mean, they could have ended on Khan in the mental institution, but I was like, you know what? No, I like this ending better. This worked for me.
Trivia.
Sam Raimi originally wanted to adapt and direct this, but he was denied the rights. He tried again in 2006 to do a reboot, but the project never got off the ground.
That is really a shame because I have heard things about this film throughout the years, but that's like the Sam Raimi part of it is something that I've never heard. So that would really be interesting.
I would like a reboot of this. I mean, they're doing everything else. Why not do The Shadow? Yeah, that'd be really cool. So originally, The Shadow's name was Kent Allard, a World War I flying ace. Lamont Cranston was Kent's alias.
That's really interesting. That's very interesting that he was a World War II pilot, and that David Koepp decided to use his alias as his real name for this movie. That's interesting.
It bombed at the box office. It had a budget of 40 million and it made 48 million, but I think the reason for that is because there was so many other amazing movies out at that time, and The Shadow, I mean, it's not like Batman. I don't know how well known it was. I don't know how. Yeah. I don't know if it's a big thing. I'd never heard of it, but it's not. I'm not what it's aimed at. But it's a shame. It's a shame that it did.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. 1994 was Forrest Gump, The Shawshank Redemption, which oddly enough died at the box office.
True Lies, I think, was out.
True Lies was also in 94, if we're not wrong. So it's a shame that a fun cult movie like this, akin to The Phantom, didn't do well on release.
Yeah. The last piece of trivia is the screenwriter David Koepp. He actually listened to the radio show The Shadow as a kid. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome. That is so cool. That's like me being asked by CBS to do a Mission Impossible reboot.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But that's it.
I mean, yeah.
That's all the trivia I've got for you. I'm done.
All right, guys. So that'll do it for this edition of the Mixtape Podcast. Listen, guys, if you want to reach out to us to give us comments, suggestions, or what have you, you can reach out to us. We have an email. It is themixtapepod@aol.com. In case you are one of our loyal listeners, next week's episode is entitled Drag Me to Hell. With all that said, done, and out of the way, I would like to say thank you very, very much for listening. And as I say often, if someone is kind enough to ever make you a mixtape, that must truly mean that they love you.
The Mixtape Podcast is a Balloonhead Productions presentation.